Lost in Translation, Breaking the 7 Deadly Sins of Church Staff Communication. Boy, that sounds like a hefty topic for a 5-minute podcast. But we're going to tackle it today here on the Healthy Church Staff Podcast. Thanks for joining us. I'm your host, Todd Rhoades, one of the co-founders over at chemistrystaffing.com. Today we're tackling a topic that can make or break your team and your ministry, and that's communication. Now, I know most of us are great communicators. You preach inspiring sermons, you write heartfelt emails, you lead absolutely engaging meetings, but let's be honest, we all have communication blind spots and those little habits that can snowball into big problems if left unchecked. And when it comes to church staff, where relationships and collaborations are absolutely key, those communication breakdowns can be especially damaging. And that's why I want to dive into the 7 worst communication habits of church staff that I've observed over the years. And don't worry, I'm not here to point fingers. I'm not here to shame anybody. My goal here is to help you identify these habits so that you can address them head on and create a healthier, more effective communication culture on your team. Okay, Todd, what are those 7 deadly sins of church staff communication? All right, here's a quick rundown. Deadly sin number 1, only contacting others when you need something. Wow, that's a classic. We all know that person who only reaches out whenever they need a favor or a problem. It's a surefire way to erode trust and build resentment. And the feeling, you look at your cell phone and you see who's calling you or who sent you a text, and your first thought is, I haven't heard from them in a while. What do they need? They need something from me. Don't be that person. Don't be the person that only contacts others when you need something. All right, so that's deadly sin number 1. All right, deadly sin number 2, not following up or closing the loop. Have you ever been left hanging after a meeting or a conversation? It's frustrating, isn't it? It's frustrating. Leaving people in the dark creates confusion, and it delays progress, and it makes you look unreliable. Think, is there an area right now where you feel like you're out of the loop? Like somebody said they were going to follow up and you never heard back from them, and you're the person that has to follow up. If you're this kind of a person, that kind of a communication breakdown can cost you in your leadership. So that's number 2. Deadly sin number 3, being passive aggressive. Now here's a sneaky one, and it's toxic. Instead of addressing issues directly, here's how a passive aggressive communicator does it. You drop hints. You make snarky comments, or you even give the silent treatment. It's passive-aggressive, and it's a recipe for misunderstandings and conflict, and these kind of people just really tick me off. Just tell me what you're thinking. Don't be sneaky, and I really don't like the snarky comments. And I can be a snarky person as well, but snark is great in the right context, but don't use it when you're to be passive-aggressive with someone. Just tell them what you need to communicate. So that's deadly sin number 3. Deadly sin number 4 of 7, not listening actively. Hey, wake up, listen to me. No, I'm just kidding. Not listening actively. We've all been guilty of this at some point. We're so focused on our thought. Maybe you're thinking about point number 3 and you're not listening to deadly sin number 4, which is not listening actively. Come on now. We're so focused on our own thoughts and our agendas that we don't truly hear what the other person's saying. Active listening involves giving your full attention. That means asking some clarifying questions. It means reflecting back on what you've heard. That's what active listeners do. So that's deadly sin number 4. Number 5, this is maybe the opposite of some of the ones we've talked about. Over-communicating. Yes, there is such a thing as too much communication. Bombarding people with emails, texts, Slack messages can be overwhelming. It can be counterproductive. Learn to prioritize your communication and choose the right channels for different types of messages. I'll give you an example. My day job is I work at Chemistry Staffing. We work with candidates all day long, every day. And every once in a while, there's a candidate that, my email box will get flooded. My voicemail will have 3 messages. It's somebody that wants a job, and they're probably very good, but they are over-communicating. Choose your communication wisely. Don't over-communicate. That's deadly sin number 5. Deadly sin number 6, making assumptions. We all have biases. We all have preconceived notions, but when we let those assumptions guide our communication, it can lead to misunderstandings and hurt feelings. I remember, I think it was from the original Odd Couple with Felix and Oscar. Was it Felix and Oscar? Why do I have that in my head? I think it was Felix and Oscar. And one of the things that I think Felix said to Oscar, or maybe it was Oscar said to Felix, was that, when you assume, the line, I'm sure, but making assumptions, instead of making assumptions, ask questions and clarify the information and be open to different perspectives. All right, that's number 6. Number 7, this is a bad one. It's a deadly sin of church staff communication. It's blaming others. When things go wrong, it's so easy to point fingers and to play the blame game, but this approach is really rarely helpful. It does create a toxic environment. So instead, take responsibility for your own actions. Don't blame others. Focus on solutions and work as collaboratively as you can to address the problems. So here's your bottom line. Effective communication is the lifeblood of any healthy team. And it's especially crucial in the church, where relationships and collaboration are at the core of our mission. And by identifying these 7 worst communication skills, you can build a stronger, more unified team. So maybe you're struggling with communication issues on your church staff. Maybe you're in charge of your church staff and you're like, Todd, oh my goodness, I just got myself into a mess and we have a bad culture of communication. Maybe you just want to improve your own communication skills and work on kind of these 7 deadly things. I encourage you to check out my article. I've got an article on this over at the chemistrystaffing.com blog. And as always, if you need further guidance or support, need maybe some ongoing help or consultation or coaching to create a good communication plan for your church staff team, reach out to me. I'd love to talk with you and see what we can work out. Podcast at chemistrystaffing.com. I'm here to help you build a team that communicates effectively and collaborates joyfully and serves faithfully. Thanks so much for joining. I hope these have been helpful to you. Again, not in a finger-pointing way or a shameful way, but dealing with these 7 deadly sins of communication. If you deal with them, you can go on to creating just a great atmosphere and a great place to minister in your church. Thanks for joining us here on the Healthy Church Staff Podcast. See you again tomorrow.